Namaskar. Welcome to this first session of the 16th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with the gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pay our respects to the Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge is protected, preserved, and transmitted for generations. I pay my deep respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and I am able to share this understanding with you. We start with our prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The 16th Adhyaya is called the Daivi Asuri Sampatti Vibhaga Yoga. And in the 15th Adhyaya, Bhagavan talked about the Purushottama Yoga, how we can achieve, understand, attain the Paramatma Tattva. But before that, we need to imbibe some Daivi Sampatti, which are also called the divine values. And we need to get rid of the Asuri Sampatti, which are the demonical or the devilish values, which are ingrained in each one of us. So our life is a combination of both this Daivi and Asuri Sampatti. We are a combination of both of these. Sometimes Devi Sampatti becomes dominant, sometimes Asuri Sampatti becomes predominant. Devi Sampatti is essentially those ethical, moral, sadgun, those values which are necessary for all persons, for all human beings. And this can only be imbibed in us through viveka, vichara, by thought, by understanding, by inquiry. And we should constantly try to acquire them. And this is part of our journey, our life, journey of life, may it be in the worldly life or in the spiritual life. But we should constantly improve ourselves upon ourselves to establish this or to attain this, which are also in the 14th Adhyaya. Bhagavan talked about the Sattva Guna, Rajas and the Tamas Guna. So essentially the Devi Sampatti is the Sattva Guna, and we should make our life anvit, assimilated with Sat, everything Sat. On contrast to this, Asuri Sampatti are these devilish qualities also in each one of us, and these are born out of these Raja and Tamaguna, and we have to constantly make an effort to get rid of these Asuri Sampatti also. And attainment of these Devi Sampatti, getting rid of these Asuri Sampatti, what does it lead to? It leads to giving us a peace of mind, which is so vital for us. It is an utmost priority for us in our life. Each one of us yearn for this peace of mind. And this should become the top project for us in our life. We keep on doing many different kinds of projects, but we don't do this project of having this, understanding this eternal peace or having this peace of mind in our life. And this also leads to purity of our inner mind, Antakarana Shuddhi. And this Antakarana Shuddhi is the prerequisite. It is the Adhikaritva, the required eligibility for this spiritual path. It gives us this Adhikaritva for understanding what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is teaching us here in Sri Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of our own self, Atma Gnana, the knowledge of the Brahman, the Sarvavyapaka, Shuddha, Chaitanya Brahma, the Brahma Gnana, which is the same. And that's why attaining this Devi Sampatti and discarding the Asuri Sampatti is an essential part of our journey of life. And if we do this diligently, constantly being aware, it can change our life. And that's why Bhagavan in the 16th Adhyaya is telling us everything about this Devi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti, so as to make us aware about what are these Devi Sampatti, what are these Asuri Sampatti, how can I make my life better. So attaining Devi and discarding Asuri Sampatti, though it is easily said by Bhagavan Shri Krishna, it is not easy for all of us to practice in our life, to understand this in our life. And because both this, we have accepted it as part of our nature, as part of our self. And that's why we generally live life without much awareness, without understanding what these are, what is the root cause of these, and how we can come out of these. And that's why Guruji gives us quite a detailed description of especially the Daivi Sampatti, how we can imbibe them by understanding. So this process or this journey requires a lot of sajagata, awareness. It requires a lot of vichara, viveka, thought. And then by understanding, we have to put it into our life and practice it by assimilating it in our life. And they are all at the level of our mind. And they are all in our mind. And that's why the mind needs to be purified. And this is our journey of life where we need to, make our mind more under control, under modulation, under sanyama by practicing dharma and attaining, and getting rid of the adharma that is part of us. And according to Bhagwan, this is the real wealth, this Daivi Sampatti. You use the word asset, Sampatti. So we give a lot of importance to money and what money can buy in terms of comforts, wealth, and all the other assets. But essentially, we don't give so much importance to this Daivi Sampatti, which also gives rise to Punya. And this Punya is an universal currency, because any other currency like say Indian rupees will be valid only in India. US dollars being a global currency, it may be valid not just in the US but in Europe and in other parts of the world also. But this currency, this Punya currency, it will be valid for all our Janam, not just this Janam but the other Janams also that we are going to take. And that's because it comes with the Jeev. When the Jeev departs from this body, it comes along with this Jiva, this Sanskara, this this kind of the baggage comes along with the Jiva when it does this prayana or this journey. So our vision should not be to change others, but our vision should be to ourselves. Guruji constantly reminds us that we should not try to change others and try to say that, oh, this is the Asuri Vritti in the other person. And instead, we have to see our own Asuri Sampattis, we have to see our own Daivi Sampattis, how we can imbibe this. And the first 3 shlokas of the 16th Adhyaya, Bhagavan shows us the 26 divine qualities, Daivi Sampatti, which we are going to talk today, which Guruma has explained in much details. She has nearly taken 13 of her pravachana, which are 1 hour each. So 13 hours of pravachana or updesha, which I am assimilating here in one talk, 1 hour. So let us come to this, how we can understand this. And these are the first 3 shlokas are very well-known shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which show us what are these Daivi Sampatti. So let us start with the first shloka. In the 15th Adhyaya, Bhagavan ended with the Purushottama Yoga, Uttama Purusha, Akshara, and Uttama Purusha. And then he said, Abhyabhichari Bhakti is the way to attain this Purushottama Yoga. And of course, now he is talking about this Daivi Sampatti, because Daivi Sampatti makes us eligible for this Bhakti and then subsequently for the Jnana. So this is all the connection between the different Adhyayas. So let's start with the first Adhyaya, which starts with Bhagavanas, Shri Krishna's own words. He said, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Sanshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yagnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna describes the Daivi Sampatti here. Abhayam, absence of all types of fear. Sattva Sanshuddhihi, purity of our inner mind. Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, so remaining steady or being firm in the knowledge, the Jnana and Yoga. We'll understand each in details. Danam, charity, to give or donations. Dama, Dama means control over our sense organs, Indriya Sanyama. Yagna, Yagna traditionally it is called sacrifice, but in our current terminology we'll use it for a larger action, for all the actions that are used or done for the larger benefit of not just the self but the society at large. Swadhyaya means study of the scriptures, but the other meaning of Swadhyaya is self-observation, Swa Adhyayana. Tapa, Tapa means to willingly endure pain, and that increases our self-control, our self-confidence. And Arjavam, Arjavam is simplicity, oneness in the mind, words and actions. So Bhagavan talks about many Daivi Sampatti. We will see one after the other. Abhayam, absence of all types of fear. Now, fear is a very common Asuri Sampatti, and all of us have some or the other fear in our life. And there are many places for having fear. A lot of us have fear for death and diseases, which this pandemic has exposed. There may be fear of losing the near and dear ones, fear of losing wealth, fear of natural disasters, fear of somebody causing violence, causing pain, hurt to us, fear of someone disrespecting us, criticizing us, ignoring us, or the fear of what will society say if I behave like this, if I do like this. So all these kinds of fears we all have, sometimes not consciously but subconsciously, and that determines our response, our reactions, our behavior in the society. And life is all about ups and downs. There may be many parts of life, and in ups we are all very happy, but when there are the down stages of life, we get very upset. And how we can enjoy each part of our life, our scriptures try to explain us that we should try and adjust as far as possible, prevent, protect ourselves, prevent from all these fears, do everything that is possible. But finally, when it comes to the end result, there must be a deep acceptance of what is given to us, what comes out of our actions. And this is essentially one of the ways how we can come out of fear. Guruji also tells us that most of our fears are imaginatory, they are kalpanic, and that's why we have to be aware whether this is a reality or we are just thinking that what if this happens, what if this happens, and most of the times this imagination only creates a fear in our mind. Sometimes the fear gets exaggerated, takes the form of phobias, and it causes a lot of psychosocial, psychosomatic issues, problems in our day-to-day life. So we need to understand this and get out of this. There are several ways we can come out of this: positive thinking, visualization, creative thinking, thinking of the positive aspects, looking this as a illusion, as an imagination, and then coming out of this. Finally, we should see that everything is transient, temporary, and we must see the reality beyond this, all this that we are seeing here, and something that is permanent, our own swarupa, our own self, which is completely abhay. It is, neither Bhagavan says, na jayate, na mriyate, neither it is born, nor it dies. And that is our real self, which is Ajar Amara. And with this understanding, we can come out of complete fear. The second, Devi Sampatti, Sattva Sanshuddhi, purity of our inner mind, essentially means being honest, being simple, truthful, and being open. And this itself means that we have a pure inner mind. And this gives rise to our peace of our mind. And because of this peace of our mind, we have healthy relationships with all our near dear ones, with our colleagues, our friends. And in any situation, we are able to maintain this peace of mind and this healthy relationships. We don't get too much of upset. And the main impurities that are present in us, our Shastra says the predominant one is the Agnana, ignorance, and everything stems out of this. But the most important ones in our day-to-day life is our strong likes, dislikes, which are also called Raga, Dvesha. And these are two of the Pancha Klesha, the 5 Klesha that our Shastra describes, which are some of the main impurities. And the way we can get out of this is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, which can make us pure inner mind. This Raga, Dvesha gradually gets shithil. They get, deactivated by this and creates Antakarana Shuddhi. The other ways are Satsanga, study of the scriptures, Santa Samagama, being with the saints and the Sadhu and the Mahapurusha, because we can see their inner purity and we can try and imbibe those qualities within us. And this purity leads to the peace of mind, and it gives us real happiness in life, which we all yearn so much. The third Devi Sampatti, Bhagavan says, is Gnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. That means remaining steady, being firm in knowledge and in yoga. So let us understand the 3 words that Bhagavan is using here, the Gnana. Gnana here, when Bhagavan says it is Atma Gnana, it is Brahma Gnana, and the way we can imbibe this Gnana is from the scriptures, from our Shastras, Veda, Upanishada, Gitaji, and through the Guru Mukha. Guru can tell us what is hidden in the Shastra. It is a secret knowledge. Yoga. Yoga means whatever we have learned from this Gnana that we have imbibed in us, or we have heard from a Guru, from the scriptures we have read, by quiet and a contemplative mind, by our own direct experience, we clearly understand this knowledge, and then we try to assimilate this knowledge in our life, and then live the life accordingly. And this is called the yoga sadhana. It's a spiritual journey. And to reach the final destination, the final goal, where we have to understand that me and the eternal truth is nothing but the same. The self aham is similar to Brahmasmi, which is the final ultimate truth or the goal that we need to understand. And for this, it takes a long sadhana. Vyavasthitihi means to remain firmly established in this gnana and this yoga. And whatever we eat, we need to digest. Similarly, whatever we listen, Shravana, we need to assimilate in us. And this is by manana, which is the logic, and nididhyasana, by meditation, by contemplation, Vedantic meditation, we can assimilate this knowledge in our own self. And so other meaning of Gnana Yoga Vyavasthiti is whatever I do it with understanding, with thought and with awareness, with proper thought and awareness. And I respond rather than I react, and I be proactive rather than being reactive in my life and in my behavior. The fourth Daivi Sampatti that Lord Krishna talks about is Dhanam, charity, to give, to donate. And this is very important message for humans, because we all, charity essentially means to distribute well all the objects according to my desire, and that is called Dana. And because most of us humans have some kind of insecurity, incompleteness within, and that's why we have a tendency to hoard. We have a tendency to accumulate and hoard rather than to give and to let it go. So this is an inherent tendency in humans, and that's why in scriptures Dana is the Updesha is given to the humans. Giving away is celebrated in our tradition for years immemorial. Those are the people who are great at Dana, like Karna, who was called the Danavira, Bhishma. All these were celebrated in our tradition because they do for the larger benefit of the others rather than being self-centered or selfish. And our own Shastras teach us to be, thinking about the other. And our Shastras also tell us that to give is not just, it is my duty, it is my dharma. I should give some part of my wealth and all the other things that I have. And when others accept this, whatever I give them, is essentially they are helping me because they accept whatever I am giving them. So I feel that they are benefited, but essentially I am not benefited. They are helping me by when I give them something. So Guru Maharaj tells us that there is nothing wrong in planning and accumulating some of the wealth in our life for our own and our family's security. Yes, it is essential in today's world to have security, and that's why we need to accumulate some wealth, some comforts, but there is a limit to which wealth can buy to give us health or happiness. And that's why whenever we acquire or we accumulate, we should make it this on a need based, not just keep on accumulating on a greed based. We should understand that initially when we give, when we donate, it will be with efforts, because we have not found a joy in giving. We first have to experience that joy. Once we experience that joy which is there in the giving, in donation, then ultimately the donations will become effortless. And then if we keep on doing this, giving out of joy, we have to find the right person to whom we should give, to donate, because that person must be in need of that, whatever we are giving. And then subsequently, the highest kind of donation is where we give and we forget about it. It is called the Gupta Dana. When we give it with the right hand, even the left hand does not know that whatever we have given. We should not have a kind of an obsession that my name should be there, a nameplate should be engraved there, that I have given it, I must be remembered for whatever I have given. So our Shastras tell us that we should forget about it once we give our donation. The fifth Daivi Sampatti is Dhamma, and this is control over our senses, our Indriya Sanyama, which has always Bhagavan Shri Krishna has talked about this right from the second Adhyaya, from the Sthita Prajna, Yada Kurmonga Aniva, Sarvasva, like a turtle, we should withdraw all our sense organs. And then even in the third and the fourth Adhyaya talked about Indriya Sanyam. So this self-control or modulation of our five Gnanendriyas, through which we imbibe all our knowledge of the outside world into ourself, and the five Karmendriyas, through which we perform all the actions. This control is very, very essential, because by nature and by instinct, our Indriyas are all going outwards. They are Bahirmukha because they run outside. And Bhagavan is telling us in Gita Ji that these Indriyas are very, very powerful. Indriyani Pramatini It takes the mind also, balavad drudam. It forcefully takes the mind also outside. And that's why Indriya Sanyam is the first step in our sadhana, where control of these sense organs, the sense of listening, hearing, touch, smell, taste, all these, some kind of control is essential. And only then mind can become still. Unless the indriyas, the sense organs are not still, mind will not become still. And this has to be initially practiced by some rules, regulations, or some niyama, tapa, dhamma, which is called dhamma, which is by some forceful practice, we need to control this indriya. And then finally, with this, the shama happens, where it naturally becomes quiet. Our mind also becomes quiet. And in our life, we should, there are many temptations in our daily life. We should try to avoid whatever is avoidable. Give it a thought whether this is something that I need to do or it's just a desire in me. And then based on that, I should try and avoid whatever I can avoid. And satsang and prayers are also very powerful ways to have this kind of a sanyama, control or modulation over our sense organs. The sixth Daivi Sampatti that Bhagavan talks about is Yagna. Yagna essentially means a sacrificial fire. As we understand, in the Vedic times, these kind of many yagnas were done, and in the Vedas, many yagnas are described. But yagnas just does not mean giving ahuti or obeisance to the devtas in this sacrificial fire. But yagna in today's terminology means those kind of selfless actions which are done not just for my benefit, but even for the larger benefit of the society at large. So this kind of yagnas are essential because we as humans are not just living independently as we perceive ourselves, but we are in connection with the universe. We are connected to this entire universe, all the other species also. And if we think about in the universe, everyone gives and takes. The nature itself, all the wind, the water, the sun, the moon, all the plants, the planets, and entire universe, all the other species, they definitely take something, but they give a lot in return. In the universe, this Srushti Chakra, this give and take continues, and everyone gives in this universe, except humans who have to be told that you have to give, because I must understand that giving is not my prerogative, or I'm not doing a favor to the universe. It's my duty to give. And that's why yagnas were described in the scriptures. Though they are not possible in today's world, at least what we can practice are the 5 yagnas that are described in the scriptures. These 5 yagnas are called Pancha Yagna. The first of them is Deva Yagna, offerings to the devas daily, some kind of prayers, puja, seva, bhoga, food, ahar, whatever. Pitru Yagnas, gratitude towards our ancestors, Shraddha Tarpana in the Shraddha Mantha. Brahma Yagna, study of the Vedas, Upanishads, Gita Ji. Dhru Yagna, treating our guests and other people well, welcoming them when they come home, offering them something. And Bhuta Yagna, offer something to birds, animals, insects. In our tradition, this is also celebrated. We offer something to the cow, we give donations. To the birds, we offer some food. To the stray dogs, cats, we offer them something. So this kind of yagnas, thinking of the society, the universe at large, keep on giving something, is always been part of our tradition. The 7th Daivi Sampatti that Bhagavan talks about is Swadhyaya, study of the scriptures, and the second meaning is self-observation. Study of the Vedas and other scriptures, Upanishads, Gita Ji, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all the this history, or the granthas, or even the Purana. All these granthas are important. Studying the biographies of the saints, the Mahapurusha, will also teach us a lot to practice in our life. But the other meaning of Swadhyaya is Swa Adhyayana, that means self-observation or self-introspection. And this, we have to give some daily thought about what we are, what we are doing, where we are going, what is the kind of trajectory that we are on, our life journey. And this, because we all have unlimited creativity hidden inside us, and only with the creative thinking, visualization, auto-suggestions, we can ignite this energy for a life-changing progress in our life. But for this, we need to think about my thoughts, what I'm having. I need to think about my reactions, which are very subtle. I need to think about my relationships, whether they are healthy or how we can improve them. I must think about the desires that I am having, whether they are need-based or greed-based. My ambitions in life, what are the goals? Either they are worthy goals or they are not worthy goals. And all this kind of thinking is essential in our life. And this is what we can do self-observation, swa-adhyayana. The eighth Daivi Sampatti Bhagavan describes is tapa. Tapa means to willingly endure some pain for our self-control. And this helps us to assimilate the knowledge that we have in our life. And for this we need tapa. And it is said that only with tapa we can become yogi. And tapa is essential part of life. Tapa means essentially willingly bear some pain for our self-control, for our sanyama. And it is not easy to practice because we are not naturally not tuned to have this kind of self-control. And that's why many religious practices teach us to have tapa. There are some fasts on particular days, Ekadashi, full moon day, and all these some kind of religious activities or tapa. In all the religions, there are some kind of tapas are there. So with tapas, what we can have the benefit is that we can have purity of our mind, we can have more radiance in our personality, and we can have a beauty in our personality. This also helps us to improve our self-confidence by improving our self-control. And this we need to start slowly. We can't have big targets. We have to start slowly, start with one fasting, and gradually by one mala or one japa or one some simple thing, and then gradually we can increase the intensity. The ninth Daivi Sampatti is Arjavam. And Arjavam itself means simplicity, oneness in mind, body, and in words and in action. So simplicity sounds very simple, but it is rare to find that simpleness or simplicity. Simplicity is oneness in our thoughts, in our speech, and in our activity. Essentially means that in our vichara, in our vachana or vani, and our vartana, our vyavhara, we have the sameness. There is no dichotomy, there is honesty, there is truthfulness. It is only possible to have this arjavam by having sattva guna backed by truth, honesty in all of this. And simplicity may appear to cause some short-term loss in our life, but long-term there are many gains which will offset this loss. Few of the benefits that simplicity can give us is satisfaction in our life, living an honest life, having a personality which is more mature, integrated, aligned. People will trust me more often. I become trustworthy. There will be healthy relationships, which is a very important asset for us in our day-to-day life. And it will help me to accept my mistakes, to improve upon myself. This can be life-changing for me. And the benefit is that my life will become light without much baggage. There is no frustration or stress. And I'm able to ask for help whenever needed. Ego doesn't come in my way. It's not a barrier. And I can appreciate others, be happy in their own progress. There is no hypocrisy. I'm easily approachable. I'm humble. And I'm simply always happy because I'm simple. And this gives a childlike innocence to saints and those people who are very simple people. So let us see the second shloka. Ahimsa satyam akrodaha tyaga shantirapayshunam daya puteshvalo luptvam mardavam hirachapalam. Ahimsa, non-violence. Bhagavan talks about satya. Satya means truth, honesty, integrity. Akrodaha, absence of anger. Tyagaha, to give up with understanding. Shantihi, peace of mind. Apaishunam, absence of having a criticizing attitude. So let us start with ahimsa. Ahimsa essentially means non-violence, which is a common value for all human beings. Because I don't like somebody to give me pain, and that's why I should not pain others. That's a very simple, common way of understanding ahimsa. And ahimsa not just means giving hurt with the body, beating or hitting something or hurting somebody, but even ahimsa means at the mind level we don't think bad about others, and at the words or the vani level we don't speak such harsh words that others are pained. So this is the way we should practice non-violence. Complete non-violence is almost impossible in our life. Even while we walk, some microorganisms will be killed. And sometimes we have to prescribe antibiotics where we kill the bacteria. Pesticides are used in growing crops, which will also kill some microorganisms. So complete non-violence is essentially not possible. But we should try and live with minimum violence. And knowingly we should not commit any violence. That's why vegetarian life or vegetarianism as an attitude or a way of life is also called a non-violent life, because knowingly we don't commit any harm to any of the microorganisms or any of the other living beings. Not killing a mosquito who sits on us or is roaming around, swirling around us. A cockroach or a lizard, when we see, we become very fearful and try to kill them. This is also a type of violence which we should try and consciously avoid. That is what our Shastras tell us, that every life has a respect it deserves, and we should not end the life of any organisms. Satyam. Satyam means truth, honesty and integrity. Honesty in our words, we should say the truth and never say lies. Integrity in our thoughts, in our words and even our actions. We can fool others sometimes by saying wrong or false words, but we cannot fool our own self. Always there is a conscience which tells us that we are fooling ourselves. And a truthful life is not an easy life. It needs a lot of courage. It is not for the timid ones. And for this, we have to look inside us. We don't have to see that the others are speaking lies. I have to see inside me whether I am trying to twist the truth or twist the facts, trying to say something that is not in my mind, rather than seeing this quality in others. And we should clearly identify that we don't justify this, that others are being dishonest in today's world. Yes, everybody is like this. There has to be some kind of you can't be truthful in today's world. This kind of justifications will never work, because of vyavaharic truth should become, worldly truth in our day-to-day life has to become the foundation of our life. Because only if we live life like this, then we can progress on and we can be in search of the paramarthik, the eternal truth, which is the ultimate goal for our spiritual quest. And that can only be got if we have our vyavharik, our worldly life is based on the foundation of this vyavharik truth. Akrodha, absence of anger, very, very important, which is we are all very familiar with anger. Guru Maharaj says, did not describe it. Even though we all know about it, it's difficult to control this anger, this avesha, this krodha. Because anger and happiness, they are enemies, they don't live together. We need to understand that we all want to be happy, and that's why we have to get rid of anger. And it only occurs when our desires are not fulfilled and we get into this ego mode. I have told him this, he is not believing me, nobody believes me, that gives me anger. And that is something that we need to come out of, because anger is like fire. It not just burns me, but also burns the other person on whom we are angry. So it is like a two-way fire, and it's the biggest enemy of people, of seekers, and it destroys our sadhana. Bhagavan has told this repeatedly in several of the adhyayas. Even in this adhyaya, in the 28th shloka, Bhagavan is going to say Narakasya Trividam Dwara. There are 3 gates to the hell. One of them is Krodha. It's an Asuri Sampatti, and that's why we have to get out of this. Cannot have peace of mind with the Krodha. We cannot have peace. We cannot be calm. We cannot be on peace with ourselves. And without a peace of mind, we cannot contemplate and we cannot understand this spiritual or the Sukshma Tattva. Thus, we must win over this biggest enemy of ours, the Krodha and anger. It has to be done with a very firm resolve. We cannot justify this in any way. And we have to see that this is my big weakness, which is not allowing me to progress on the path. And there can be immediate short-term solutions to anger, which can be like something like a symptomatic treatment for fever. But there are some long-term solutions to anger, which are like going to the root cause and curing this anger. Immediate short-term solutions are, we can drink some cold water, take a cold shower, stop talking at the time when we have anger. The other methods are closing our eyes, doing some deep breathing, and sitting quietly can also help us to get our mind, going from those thoughts and quieting ourselves. Leaving that place, going to outside nature, garden or some open space can also help us to get over the anger. But for this, we have to be very aware. Long-term solutions are that we have to firmly decide that I want to control anger. We should never justify anger, saying that only if I am angry, people listen to me. That justification will never work. We must make small goals to control our anger on a daily basis and then start slowing up and building up. Praying to the Lord to give us strength, asking for help is also a way, and punishing ourselves by giving some donation of 100, 500 or 1,000 rupees if we get angry is also a good way of controlling anger. And we must live our life with understanding, and with the understanding that my peace of mind is my topmost priority, and if anger is going to disturb this peace of mind, it's not worth to become angry, And with this, we have to understanding, we have to get over our anger. Tyaga, to give up with understanding. And this is a very important Daivi Sampatti. Tyagat Shanti Ranantanam. Bhagavan has already said that Tyaga instantly gives us peace of mind. And this giving up is the foundation of our spiritual journey. Essentially, we have to give up a lot of our misconceptions, duragra, obsessions, our wrong beliefs, all this. And the more we give up, the more we attain. But somehow in our mind, we feel that when we give up, we lose something. But if we try to understand that how we attain more and more, and this essentially needs to be large-heartedness. Giving is a habit of the nature. We have to see that on a universal level also, giving is a part of nature. If we also look at our own self, the Vyasti level or individual level, then constantly in our body also, all the systems work by give and take. We take deep breath and we go out. When we eat, there is excretion of the stool, urine. Similarly, the heart accepts blood and then gives it away. So everything gives up, accepts and gives. So this is part of our body also. Similarly, happiness is in the giving, but we need to experience this, and gradually, initially we have to do it, and initially we have to give it with efforts, and only then it will become effortless. And our culture and our tradition, people who are give up, they are revered, they are respected, and that's how learn to give. And we need to learn to give everything one day, because one day we have to leave everything. Even this body we have to give up one day, and for that we have to start leaving something. We have to start giving up something, small things every day, gradually, as we mature and progress in life. Shanti, peace of mind. And peace of mind is essentially mind coming back to its original resting state. And this is called by Bhashyakar as Antakarana Upashamana. Antakarana coming back to its own original state, because when mind is restless, we all yearn for peace. And this is all the Daivi Sampattis are essentially needed to get back to our peace of mind. Peace is our own asset. It cannot be purchased or brought from outside. And we must understand that this is my most important prized asset. I want to remain peaceful, and I need to love my peace of mind. I need to give it the best or the highest priority, so that it is not disturbed in any situation of life. And I should also take all my decisions in life with due diligence, so that in the later part, I'm not restless, or I don't have to get pain or disturb my peace of mind. And think of all the causes of restlessness. We should try and see that if there are any fears beyond this, or as a root of these restlessness, then we should remove those fears, and we should trust God, leave and surrender to the Lord. Ishvara Sharanagati, essentially meaning try to do our best, but leave everything to the rest. Whatever karma phala we obtain, we let it or accept it as a prasada buddhi. So it's only in human life that I can attain this eternal peace, Ananda Swarupa, which is part of my own eternal self. And this is what is my goal. Apaishunam, absence of criticizing attitude, not speaking bad about person in her or his absence. Some of us, we love backbiting, talking, and it's a favorite pastime for some. And that's the root cause of this is the feeling of incompleteness or dissatisfaction inside. The other cause is that we try to belittle somebody just to uplift our own self or making ourselves look better. And this can also be because of jealousy. We feel unhappy at the progress of others, because of which also we start criticizing people. And for some of the people, this is a very favorite pastime. Healthy criticism is okay. It is welcome, because this will help us to avoid mistakes in the future. But having uncontrolled criticism of others all the time is not a good habit. We should try to speak less as necessary, and see good in others and inspire others. Daya Bhuteshwa Loluptvam Mardavam Hira Chapalam. Daya Bhuteshu means mercy towards all species. Aloluptvam means absence of greed. Mardavam is gentleness in action, speech and mind. Rihi means shame. And Achapalam is absence of restlessness or calmness. So Daya Bhuteshu, mercy towards all, compassion towards all beings, especially those who are in pain. And human beings are full of emotions. We are a bag full of emotions. Some are good, some are not so good. But we should be aware of the other's pain and emotions, and that itself is a human quality in each one of us, which inspires us to reach out, help them, make their life better. In the process, it makes our life also better. Helping others make us happy, makes us feel one with the universe, makes us feel connected with the universe, But this is only bringing smile to others, also makes us happy, and this provides us with a fulfillment even money cannot bring us. But for this we need to experience this, and for this we need to go out and help others by compassion. Shri Krishna shows us our path of progress. Krishna himself is called Dayanidhi, Daya Karuna Nidhi, Karuna Nidhan, or Daya Sagar, is a full of ocean of love, ocean of mercy, and he shows us how we can improve, increase our path and progress in our life. Alolutvam means absence of greed. Human beings have an inherent tendency of thinking about more and more profits, more and more gains in our life, may it be our wealth, may it be our stock market, may it be our real estate, may it be this, that, the others. And all these is stemmed out of our greed of having more and more, which we think that is going to give us happiness, pleasure, joy. Even for those things that rightfully does not belong to us, sometimes we have greed, and there is no end to greed and desires. It is said in our Shastra that it is like pouring ghee, pouring some oil into the fire, because it keeps burning and it is bottomless. This greed, these desires keep on stemming. But only by our viveka, our understanding, we can come out of these. And we need to understand that wealth is definitely important, but it is not everything. It is not the first goal. We have to define our needs, and accordingly we have to fulfill them and enjoy the life by knowing the limits of our needs, and live the life on the basis of the foundation of ethics, dharma, morality, and having some kind of satisfaction in our life, which is taught to us by our scriptures. Mardavam. Mardavam means being gentle in actions, in speech, and in mind. And this gentleness provides a very warm in our personality. It becomes a nice personality. You can see this in saints who are gentle to others, but they are harsh on ourselves, because on their own self, because they have strict rules that they follow. But wicked people are harsh on others. They are very gentle on themselves. They don't have some kind of rules to follow. So our Shastras teach us to be gentle. At the same time, we have to be firm in our principles. We don't have to be compromising all the time. Gentleness does not mean that we become very, very flexible all the time. But at the same time, we should not become rude or harsh on others. And with this, we'll have gratitude towards our family, friends, and colleagues. We should try to imbibe gentleness in all our daily activities like walking, eating, doing our work, our profession, all our activities with awareness, and that will bring gentleness in our daily activities. We should deal lovingly and nicely with all, be nice to all people. Rihi. Rihi means shame in doing some adharma, unethical or illegal actions, to conduct ourselves with the respect the humans deserve. And when we do wrong, our consciousness will always bite us. It will always tell us, oh, this is not the right thing you are doing. And this shame or rihi protects us from doing the wrong things. And this is the inner conscious. Later, once we keep doing this again and again, that voice of that conscious gets muffled, and we keep doing the wrong or unethical things. And that's why we need to follow all the rules of the social behavior, and we need to constantly listen to our inner voice, the conscious, which tells us that we should not break traffic rules and other social rules. And we should have that shame on ourselves when we do a wrong thing. How can I do such a thing? Does not befit me as a person. And we must remember that we can hide these kind of things from others, but we cannot hide anything from our Lord, from our own self. Sarvasya Hridhi Sanvisht Vishtitam. I am sitting here in the hearts of all, Bhagavan says, and that's why he is the seer, he is the drashta, upadrashta, anumantacha. He is there seeing everything. We cannot hide anything from the Lord. Achapalam means absence of restlessness, or having that kind of a calmness. Restlessness is a sign of superficiality, unawareness when we live life, and a person who is not matured, not fulfilled, does not have a quiet personality, is restless all the time. And this restlessness can be in vak chapalyam, that is speaking too much unnecessarily. Karma chapalyam, restlessness in our activity, body, want to do so many things, uncontrolled movements. Bhoga chapalam, constantly dwelling in sense pleasures like seeing, listening, eating, working, smelling, etc. And only with a quiet body we can have a still mind, and only with a still mind we can progress in spirituality. The third shloka is Teja Shama Druti Shaucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Teja, enlightened personality. Shama, forgiveness. Drutihi, the Druti Shakti, that power to control all our emotional rage. Having patience, Druti Shakti. Shaucham, purity, both outer cleanliness and inner mind purity. Adroho, Adroha means absence of revengeful tendency. Na ati manita, absence of craving for too much of self-respect. Bhavanti sampadam daivim abhijatasya bharata. O Arjuna, such are the virtues of the person who are born with the divine qualities, the Daivi Sampatti. Tejaha, enlightened personality. So, in the what is Tejaha? That enlightened personality is that when a presence of that person creates a very strong personality, so that in the presence of that person, everybody speaks truth, everybody respects that person from within, and they do this out of not just out of respect or reverence, definitely not out of fear. So this kind of a personality is that tej in that person, and this tej only comes from the nishtha, the discipline, that firmness in the principle that person lives a life with. Dharma is the foundation of this, and only with this discipline. But this discipline should not be such that it makes us very rigid as a person. We should also be flexible and try to forgive others for their own faults. And this is what Bhagavan says is Teja. Shama. Shama means forgiveness, quiet forgiveness, without any ripples that happen inside, with an understanding. This is an inner state where there is no wave of anger or akrosh or avega. And this needs a lot of courage, inner strength, samarthya. It is not for the weakling to forgive anyone. And because the rage or the avesha is due to the people who are not conducive to me, I want to do the things in some way, but the others don't want to do it that way. And this creates a kind of emotion, an avega, and I cannot make others happy all the time. And I must understand that others can also not make me happy all the time. And that's why it's important to forgive others. Similarly, it's important to forgive my own self. So everyone behaves according to their own nature. I must accept the weakness of all. All have a few weaknesses. I should be forgiving. And this letting go, forgiveness, is a positive attitude. It comes out of strength. It's a glad acceptance of all people as they are. It is something that we should forgive and forget all those trivial little things, because we need to understand that my goal in life is something which is much larger. And for this, I have to be large-hearted and forgive and forget trivial things in life. Druti Shakti. Druti is that power to control all those rage and having patience. It is that force that helps me to control my emotions. It is like a brake in a moving car. And only once this brake is applied, we then can modulate our flow of our emotions into the Sat emotions or Sat activity or Sat Vyavahara. And this will help me to increase my self-confidence to overcome the difficulties in life. And with enthusiasm, I need patience, and both this enthusiasm and patience, they sound contradictory, but they are a rare combination which can help me to control myself. And this patience comes out of our strength to get over the obstacles in our life. Shaucham, purity, cleanliness, outer shuddhi, cleanliness in our place, our home, office, our table where we work, clothes, body, clean wealth, clean food, dhana shuddhi, mana shuddhi, anna shuddhi. All this outer shuddhi is very, very important part of our life. Only if there is outer shuddhi, then we can have a more important sukshma inner shuddhi, which is the antar shuddhi, antakarana shuddhi, which is more difficult, requires more awareness because it is more subtle, more sukshma. And for this, we have to get over the impurities of our own inner mind, which are the raga, dvesha, and the other impurities. And with this inner purity, shuddhi, we have positive feelings, we have a helping attitude, we have a quiet mind, which will help us to realize that our mind or antakarana is getting more and more shuddha. And this inner purity or the mind shuddhi is a prerequisite for the knowledge, the Atma Gnana that Bhagavan is talking about here. It is something very similar to that a clean mirror is only able to hold the reflection of the object. And that's how similarly it's only with a clean mind can understand this Atma Gnana, and all these divine qualities, the Daivi Guna, are all for our inner purity, our Shuddhi, so that we can become a clean mirror which can reflect this our own self. Adroho, absence of a revengeful attitude, animosity which creates a feeling for revenge to others. I must understand that people are like instrument, nimitta for my sukha, dukkha. They are not the cause for this sukha, dukkha. And I need to go through these experiences because there's this theory of karma, karma phala. This theory is very, very sound. Afara, amoga theory of karma, karma phala, which always happens. And that's why with this understanding, I don't blame others for what we get, either good or not so good. And we should not blame even ourselves for the situation that we are in, because that is prarabdha for us, and that's how we should accept one and all, not just myself but others as they are. The final Daivi Sampatti that Bhagwan describes is Na Ati Manita, absence of craving for much respect. Bhagwan says we all need to be respected. Some respect that we demand or appreciate or expect is okay, but desiring too much of respect all the time, that people should appreciate me for whatever little things that I'm doing, this is to be avoided. I must do whatever I do out of a sense of duty, and I must understand that whatever I'm doing, there are so many circumstances that are given, my team members, my the tools that I have, all this body that is given to me by the Lord, all this is helping me to do whatever I'm doing as a part of duty. So respect cannot be demanded, it is commanded. And this creates many this absence of craving for all our respect creates many issues, many differences, many quarrels in our daily life. We have to come out of this by understanding. So Bhagwan says, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Ho Arjun, such are the virtues of the person who are born with divine qualities. Daivi Sampatti. Shri Krishna comes to the end of Daivi Sampatti, describes this 26 Daivi Sampatti in the first three shlokas. We need to repeatedly remember these qualities by repeated chanting of these shlokas, by keeping them and doing some self-introspection, self-observation, which can help us to understand our own self, where we need to improve ourselves and try to imbibe these qualities in our life, to assimilate it in our life. And if we do this, this can be a life-changing experience. It can change our life for the better. So we need to constantly remember that there is a constant connection. This Daivi Sampatti will help us to develop the pure or Shuddha Antakarana. And with this Antakarana, Shuddha Antakarana, only we can progress and understand this Atma Jnana that Bhagwan is talking about. So there is a connection between all this. And Daivi Sampatti is the first step in our spiritual journey before we can attain this Shuddha Antakarana and understand this Atma Jnana. From the fourth shloka onwards, Bhagwan talks about the Asuri Sampatti now. Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushyameva cha Ajnanam Chabhichatasya Partha Sampadamasurim. So here Bhagwan just gives an introduction of a few Asuri Sampatti. He says Dambha, hypocrisy, Darpaha, pride, Abhimana, ego, Krodha, anger, Parushyam, harshness, says Ajnana, ignorance, lack of understanding. Says Abhijatasya Bharata Sampada Masure. Oh Arjuna, one who is born with these qualities are called devilish or the demonical qualities, Asuri Sampatti. And then Bhagwan in the fifth shloka tells Arjuna, Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Suri Mata Mashucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi Pandava. Bhagwan says Daivi Sampatti Vimokshaya, Daivan qualities or Daivi Sampatti is for moksha, is for liberation, and Nibaddhaya Asuri Mata. In my opinion, Bhagwan says this demonical or the Asuri Sampatti causes our bondage, binds us always in this Sansara Chakra. He says, Ma Shuchaha, O Arjuna, O Pandava, you don't worry, you are born with the divine qualities, and that's why you are the Adhikari for moksha through Arjuna. Bhagwan is telling all of us who are listening to Bhagavad Gita, essentially when we are listening, talking about the Gita Ji, essentially means that we are all Adhikaritva, we have some Daivi Sampatti, that's why we are listening to Gita Ji, Guruma tells us, and that's why we are all Adhikari for moksha. And Bhagwan consoles Arjuna, and through Arjuna consoles the entire humanity that don't worry, you are born with these divine qualities. And then Bhagwan gives a detailed description in the next about 25 shlokas, gives a detailed description of which are the Asuri Sampattis. Bhagwan is talking about them, which we'll see in the next session. With this, we come to the end of the first session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर, गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म, तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति।